my first question to you is, um, before actually we move on to our questions, I would want you to introduce yourself, your education, and your current position.
Sure. Yeah. Hi everyone. Super excited to be here. And yeah, I'm Nehal, and I've been working currently at Uber. At Uber, I've been for almost 2.5 years now. Before this, I've been working with SlicePay and HP. And I did my so I have done my engineering from Bangalore, from SRMVIT College, which comes under the
Okay.
VTU University. So this has been my journey so far. It's already been almost 5 years into the development field, and yeah, more exciting times ahead.
Great. So can you tell us more about your experience working at Uber and how does it feel like to work there in general?
Yeah, I would say in general it's great. So for me, it was definitely a big shift moving from a startup to a company like Uber.
Mm-hmm.
The startup that I was working previously was like 6 months old, and
Okay.
Uber has already been into this for almost for a very long time. So yeah, the major difference that I felt was the scale at which Uber operates. So any sort of change that I make, even if it's a UI change or anything that I do, just reaches out to billions of users
Mm-hmm.
so the scale is like massive, so that really motivates you a lot, so that you do your work perfectly in every way, because you know that you're impacting so many users and definitely business in turn. So this is
Mm-hmm.
something that is really inspiring. Another thing I would say is, yeah, the according to, I mean, if you're asking about the work culture and things like that, it's very great here. So you're constantly motivated to like be better every day. There's no such restriction, like if you're an app developer, you can only work on Android or you can only work on iOS. If you want to expand to more fields, you want to do backend or you want to do data science, you're free to do that. You're free to like learn and pick up those skills, and they will definitely, I mean, you will be guided through that as well. So yeah, it feels good.
Wow, that sounds interesting. Um, so you worked at some amazing companies like HP and SlicePay and Uber. So can you tell us a little more about the roles and responsibilities of a software developer?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I think initially when I started, I what I understood as a software developer was that you have to code a lot. But as and when I have grown into these roles, I've realized that coding is just one aspect to it. So you
Mm-hmm.
definitely have to code, and you have to definitely work on a lot of features and a lot of changes and things like that. But along with coding, you have to do a bunch of things. If you're a software developer, you have to be very good at collaboration. You have to have some data skills also in the future. By
Mm-hmm.
collaboration, I mean that you need to collaborate very well with other teams as well, because you're not going to be just working alone or just in a small team always. And also
Okay.
it means that collaborating well with the product and design. So you have PMs working with you, you have designers working with you. You have to
Mm-hmm.
constantly reach out to them to understand the requirements. You have to give good suggestions to design also, if you have something in mind to improve them. And apart from that, you also have to look a lot at the business side. As a developer, you can't just ignore the business side and just say that I don't care about how my changes are affecting business. You have to understand that as well. You have to understand what your users like, what is making business grow, and what sort of impact your work is actually making inside of business. So that's
Mm-hmm.
also another aspect to it. And yeah, I would say that the field of data is also very interesting. And this is, as a mobile developer, I've also picked up a lot of data skills around what to do with data and how to understand how data works, and also understanding where your users are falling through. If someone is not really taking a trip, or if someone is not really using a product, why is that happening? Are there any technical
Right.
issues in the app, or there are things that people are just not able to understand or figure out why are they not really doing it?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Okay. Wow. So we have a lot of students who are from technical backgrounds. So
Yeah.
what skills or languages would you suggest they learn as per industry requirements?
Yeah, sure. So I think there are not specific languages that you need to learn. I would say that
Okay.
a lot of skills in this industry are relevant. So if you look at mobile side, you can learn Java or Kotlin, and you can learn Swift if you want to get into iOS development. If you want to become a data engineer, you have to go to those fields and learn Python. But if you want to go into backend, again, you can pick up like skills like the Go language and things like that. So I think it's more about interest. So if you are interested into the UI side of things, if you like building UI elements and like seeing what comes on the phone screen or on the web screens, you should pick up those skills accordingly. If this is something that does not interest you at all, you can look towards backend side or the data science side, or there are a bunch of things like machine learning and everything. So I feel that with technology, right now is the age that you can just learn anything, but
Right.
but you have to be selective. You have to identify what you enjoy working on, and also see what are the career opportunities in those fields as well. So if you
Right.
talk about mobile, yeah, there are like a huge lot of opportunities in mobile, because almost everyone you know will have a smartphone. Almost everyone you know will be building some or the other apps, or just some using some or the other apps. So you will definitely have opportunities there. On the website also, it's somewhat similar. And again, another very big growing field is data. So
Right.
almost every company has a lot of data, and they need to process data. They want to understand what you can do with that data, how to identify the user's behavior, how to improve your product. So again, that's again a huge field that can be tapped into.
Okay, so that was very insightful, Nehal. Moving on to the next question, what are some projects that you suggest as students to take up so that they can build their resumes too?
Okay, yeah. So in terms of resume building, I would say that just running behind certifications is not a great idea. I've had a lot of people ask me that if
Right.
I do this sort of certification, would it help? If I do this certification, would it get me a job interview and things like that? That's really not how it works. So even if you do a certification, but you are not able to answer the questions there, it would not really help. So you have to be. So what I suggest particularly is build a great GitHub profile if you are getting into coding or development. So on GitHub, you can showcase your code directly. So if someone's interested, they can go look at what you have built instead of just seeing a certificate that, okay, you have completed an Android development course. If you're interested in Android, maybe just build one or two apps, just do some courses, some basic courses also, build at least one or two decent apps and put them on GitHub, or if possible, put them on Play Store as well. And even if there are no users of that app, people can still see how you code. So that's really a different opinion in my, I mean, what I suggest. So yeah, I think that's a great way to showcase your skills as well.
Okay, so now that we're talking about this, can you walk us through different job opportunities in the tech sector and what exactly you need to do in these roles?
Sure, yeah. So talking about different opportunities, if you just talk about technical side, there is definitely you can get into app development. So for app development, you need to have you at least if even if you want to get an internship, you at least need some familiarity with app development. You can build one or two basic apps, and again, as I told, put it on GitHub and try reaching out on LinkedIn to people who are into app development already and ask how it looks and take suggestions. Just read some good blogs and podcasts and go through them and improve on your skills. That's one way to go about it. Another opportunity that I see is again web development also. That's also UI side, but that's another language that you need to learn. It's not the same as
Okay.
mobile development, so you will need to learn more of React and things like that. And okay, I think someone's asking something. I'll take that question later. So
Yeah.
let me just cover all the opportunities and things like that. Another one, as I already spoke about data, that's like a huge growing field again. So if you are interested in data, if you're interested in digging up data, understanding what these means, data science is another great option for the technical side. And
Okay.
yeah, another huge field is backend, because if you understand how mobile works, how mobile applications work, a lot of data that you see on the mobile apps or a lot of processes that go on are controlled by the backend. So the backend is again, it's common across any companies. So any company that you go to will have a lot of backend developers also, because all the
Right.
services are written by the backend developers. So that's another field. But if you talk about the non-technical side, I would say there are other roles like product managers. There are other roles like engineering managers. So yeah, they are more on the business side. They would have to specifically target what business is trying to achieve, and then accordingly guide the team on what sort of features or what sort of products they should be building.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, when you go for an interview,
Mm-hmm.
like what can you expect in that interview?
Yeah, so if you're asking specifically for a software developer, for any role that you go to, you would have like two or three very general rounds for any company that you go to.
Right.
One of these rounds will be checking your data structures and algorithms. So
Mm-hmm.
if you talk about that, there are again great resources available like LeetCode. So that's what I prefer, and that's what is a standard across a lot of companies. So
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, you can go practice your data structure and algorithm skills there. There are very easy
Okay.
tracks in LeetCode also that you can look forward to. Like there are monthly challenges wherein they ask you to just code one problem every day. There are tracks
Okay.
for like the medium levels, low levels, I mean higher levels as and when you improve. So that's a great resource. Another round that you have specifically is a technical round based on your skill set. So if you're going for an Android round, they're most likely to ask you to build an app. And so when you're building the app, they will not just check if you're able to build the app or no. They will not just check that you're able to show whatever UI they wanted or no. They would also look at how you code. So
Okay.
that matters a lot, because right now it's if you look at the industry and the resources that are available, almost anyone can build an app. They can learn to code and they can build an app. So that's where it differentiates a good developer from a very new developer. That's what I would say. So you should definitely look out for the best practices. You should look out for the great
Mm-hmm.
architecture designs, so that matters a lot in the long run. So these are two basic rounds that happen at any company that you go for. And apart from that, some companies will have bar raiser rounds. So they will basically judge you on how you are compared to the present people in the company. So basically, they would look for a person who is at least better than 50% of the employees who are already there. So
Okay.
that's a controversial sort of round. I mean, you can't basically judge what's going to happen, but it's more of a behavioral check also, whether you fit into the company, whether you'll work great with teams. As I say, collaboration is again a very important part. If you can't work in a team well,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't make sense if you even if you are like super intelligent, right? Because you won't be working alone ever. So that's again a
Mm-hmm.
good point.
Okay, now coming to the Android applications, you worked as a senior Android developer at SlicePay and now as an SDE at Uber. So, with your experience, what pro tips do you have for building Android applications?
Okay, so yeah, so I think I have made a lot of mistakes earlier when I started with Android development.
Okay.
What I was trying to do is just build the app somehow, just make it work somehow, whatever feature I'm trying to build. That's not really a great way to go about it. In the starting, it's fine, but I think you should definitely learn a lot of the best practices that are there. I would say the Android community is a great resource that you can utilize. If you just go to the Google Android developers channel itself, you can learn a lot of things. So you should always identify what is the standard that is getting used across the industry, and
Mm-hmm.
try to use that. And whenever you're building an app within a company or even for your own purpose, I would say follow a good architecture for your code. So what happens in Android is you have a lot of UI code which you show it to the user, and you also have a lot of logical code which basically processes what is shown to be the user. So these should be separated out early in the development, because as and when your code grows, it becomes very difficult to manage it. And
Okay.
yeah, so that's one pro tip. Another thing I would like to highlight is initially as junior developers we don't tend to focus a lot on testing. So by testing I don't mean manual testing. You have to get into unit testing. You have to make sure that there are no regressions because of your changes. So unit testing your code makes a lot of difference, especially when you're working on larger code bases, because that ensures that if you have built something, that stays that way. If someone else also comes and builds something on top of it, the unit test makes sure that what was working perfectly earlier works as it is. So that's again an area to look into. And yeah, I think that's mostly what I could think of. Another thing would be again to educate yourself on the best practices and tooling that is available for you. So again, the Android developers blogs are a great resource for that.
Okay, okay. So that's about pro tips. Now, what are some challenges or obstacles you faced? What mistakes should you avoid while building your application?
Yeah, that's a great question actually. Yeah. So I would say that Yeah, initially the challenges that I have faced is I was not aware of a lot of tooling that is available for Android developers.
Okay.
So when
Mm-hmm.
you're using Android Studio, you have a bunch of options available to make the developers' life easy. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're building an Android application, you should definitely know how to use Android Studio. What are the tips and tricks of Android Studio? And debugging is a major portion of your work. Whenever something goes wrong, you will need to know what and where something went wrong. So that's
Mm-hmm.
a challenge when you're working on larger code bases. So there are very good tools available built by Facebook or Google, which can help you identify what is happening exactly inside your app, like which API calls are being made, what sort of screens are being displayed, the screen that is being displayed, where is the code for that screen, and things like that. So being aware of those tools really helps a lot. Initially, what I was trying to do is I was not aware of these tools, and
Mm-hmm.
I was working at the startup, so the code base was relatively smaller. So I used to manually go read through the code and just search for that piece of code from where this change is happening. That's definitely not a great way to do that. So it just eats up a lot of your time, and mostly you will just mess it up.
Okay. So you said you were not aware of a couple of tools
Hmm.
when you were starting. So what are some
Yeah.
software or tools that are used by everyone in the field and that not everyone else knows about?
Okay.
I did not know about it.
Yeah, sure. So for Android, as I told, yeah, you should definitely use Android Studio, and you should be aware of a lot of tips and tricks on Android Studio. You should again, there are a couple of tools built by Facebook, which is called Flipper and Stetho, which help
Okay.
you debug your applications. So that you should be aware of that. And if you ask as a developer perspective, it takes like probably 5 or 10 minutes to set it up for your application, but
Mm-hmm.
makes your life a lot easier. Then there are open source tools like Leak Canary. So in Android applications, we have this problem of memory leaks a lot, and memory leaks make your app slow and cause your app to freeze. So a lot of times when you're using apps, you might have seen that okay, this app is stuck or it's just frozen, and nothing
Mm-hmm.
happens unless you just kill the app and restart
Right.
your app and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So these sort of tools like Leak Canary help you identify where these memory leaks are happening, so that you can go and fix in your code. Another tool that I would say is very popular but unknown to newer developers is Proguard. So Proguard helps make your app smaller in size. So if you have like a 50 MB app, if you use Proguard for your app, it might just come down to 10 MB. And a lot of survey by Google or any of these companies tell that people generally tend to uninstall the apps that are huge in size, because everyone has space constraints on their device, and if the app is lagging or if the app is too huge, people will not tend to like keep it on the device. They'll just go uninstall it and try to find an alternative, or just try to use websites or things like that. So that's
Yeah.
that's another tool that you should be using.
Okay. So apart from tools, what are some apps or websites or courses that you would recommend for anyone starting in this field?
Okay, yeah, I think there are great courses available online, but what I have frequently used is Udemy and Udacity. So
Okay.
Udacity has these paths for learning Android development. I think it is chargeable now. When I was learning, it was free, but it is chargeable now for the certification courses. These certifications are directly by Google, and they basically guide you through the entire process as well. You have
Mm-hmm.
mentors also available who will be reviewing of your code and things like that, and that becomes a really important part, because
Right.
if you're working alone, you will just write the code in whichever way you know best. But
Mm-hmm.
only if you reach out to senior people, and only if you reach out to people who have already worked in this field or who are aware of the best practices, they will be able to review your code and give you better suggestions. So that there are two ways of doing this thing, and this way is better, so that you start adopting that best practice as well. So yeah, I think, yeah, Udacity and Udemy is a great resource. Apart from that, Android Developers Blog by Google is again a very
Okay.
standard resource that you can use.
Mm-hmm.
It has a YouTube channel as well, which keeps you updated about any new recent developments in Android. So we have these Google I/O that happens every year. All the videos are posted on that channel. So it's a
Okay.
great resource. There are podcasts as well. There is this podcast called Fragmented, which is very famous. And yeah, I think that it's again a great resource to learn anything on Android or Java as well. Apart from that, I have been following a lot of writers on Medium. So Medium has a great resource again for Android. There are communities like Mindocs, which actually specifically trains students to get into Android development. So these are some of the great resources that I can think of. And apart from that, I have personally felt that even Twitter is a great place. So if you follow like really good Android developers, so you get a lot of content from there also, because they keep posting on their Twitter channels also, like what is going on, what is this recent change, and if they have tried something new and that worked really well, they posted there as well. So I think Twitter is again a great place to just follow these people and look out for the new changes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you name a couple of people, that we can follow on Twitter?
Yeah, sure. You can follow Chet Haas. He's the relationship manager for Google. So
Okay.
I think this guy has the most recent updates, anyways. And you can subscribe to the Android developers channel on YouTube, which is again maintained by Google. So anything new that comes up just shows up there. And another one that I mentioned was Fragmented. So this is hosted by this guy called Don Felker and this another guy called Kaushik Gopal. So I think these are just great starting points to start with. And the Fragmented podcast, I believe, is a gem, because if you just go through like 10 of them also, you will learn a great deal. So yeah, I think these are
Okay.
these are these are some of the
Okay.
people that you can start following.
Okay. So moving back to the job front, how important is GitHub or Kaggle profile for any tech job?
Yeah, so I have not used Kaggle because it's mostly used by data scientists. But yeah, I know that it's a great resource again to showcase what you're building. And GitHub, in my opinion, is the biggest tool that you can use right now, apart from LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, on LinkedIn, you maintain your profile and say that, okay, I've been working on this, I've been working on that. So people come and look at your profile, and if you suit any of their job profiles, they'll directly reach out to you. But GitHub is a great place to maintain what you are doing. So if I want to code an app, I want to showcase what I'm coding. It just go down GitHub. And again, GitHub has all these flexibilities. Like, let's say I was just coding on my app, and now I have finished it, and now I can open source it. So others can look at that code, and others can also contribute to that code, and then it becomes an even better tool or app. Hi,
Mm-hmm.
am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay, yeah, I think your video just froze, so I was not sure.
Okay. Yeah, you're audible.
Okay, yeah, another aspect of GitHub I would say is the open source projects that are available. So any of these companies that you think about, like Uber, Google, Facebook, any of these companies. So these companies have a lot of open source projects that were built internally by the company, and they put all of their code there. So a great start again is to just look at those open source projects and try to make contributions to them as well. This is a great highlight on your profile. If you can just showcase that you have worked on some of the open source projects that were created by Uber or Google, you can just go look at the current issues that are there and try to fix some of those issues.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, Yashi, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. It was an internet issue.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so moving to the next question. You've built a couple of apps like Music Quiz app and News app and Movie Guide app. So can you tell us what is the difference between building these apps and what it takes to actually build like apps like these?
Sorry, I didn't get you. So you mean to ask what sort of skills are required to build these apps?
Can
Hello.
yeah, can you hear me, Nehal?
Yes, yeah. There's some lag, but I think it's better now.
Okay. So what I was asking was, you've built a couple of apps like music quiz app and news app and movie guide app. So can you tell us what is the difference between building these apps?
Are you asking what's the difference between building these apps from an app like Uber?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, so these apps that I've built are on GitHub, and these are mostly my pet projects. So
Okay.
I've been building a lot of these apps just to understand some pieces of code, or just to try out some of the newer features that are available. So let's say Google announces that they have made a bunch of changes to the notifications piece of code. So how we display notifications, or they recently made changes to like one tap sign in. So now users don't have to go through an extensive process for signing into your app. So any of the newer developments that I want to try it on some of my pet projects to see how it works. And also, yeah, these apps that you see on GitHub are so the backend for them is already built. So there are a lot of public APIs that are available for your app. So if you want to try out something like how this works, or what happens if I rotate my device, how do you figure that out? How do you fix those cases? So yeah, I've just been building some of these pet project apps to understand a lot of these concepts. And yeah, if you talk about an app like Uber, the scale is again huge for Uber. So it's much different than doing a pet project. Yashi, I think I lost you again for the last few minutes.
I think I'm gonna turn off the video. So
Yeah, sure. You can turn off the
yeah.
video. I think it would be quite better.
Okay. So shall we move on, Nehal?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I think we have a couple of questions from mentees. So let's move on to those questions now.
Sure.
Um, so Kamlesh is asking about the scope of web development.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think yeah, I can answer that. So web development, you're asking whether web development has scope or not. Definitely, it has a huge scope, and web also has newer concepts like progressive web apps, which can be which are very similar to using like native sort of apps. So the experience is much better. And apart from that, if you feel that apps are taking over and websites are not, that's not really the scenario here, because websites still play a lot of role. You might not be using it for apps like Uber or things like that, which are very mobile specific, but a lot of tooling is still on web. A lot of tools that we use at Uber internally are also on web. So we definitely need web developers for building those sort of things. And again, a lot of websites like Flipkart or Facebook or things like that are still web heavy. So yeah, there's a lot of
Okay.
scope, definitely.
Okay. So moving on to the next question. The next question is, after doing BCA, which is better, MCA or MBA?
Sure. So MCA or MBA are two very different fields. MCA is again doing a master's in the computer field itself, and MBA is again moving on to the business side. So I would say what you should identify what you're interested in. So if you're doing a BCA, that means you're doing a bachelor's in computers. So MCA will just continue that field. So if you want to get into a tech job, you want to work at companies like Uber or Google or any of these tech companies, you should be going for MCA if you're going to go in the technical field. But if you want to move on to the business side, if you want to become a product manager at the end of the day, or get into some leadership roles, or get into fields like supply chain management and things like that, then you should definitely look for MBA opportunities.
Okay.
Did it
Um,
answer your question?
I think, and if we haven't been able to answer your question, you can drop it in the chat box. Maybe we can
Sure.
clarify it. Yeah. Moving on to the next question, how do you get internship in third year being a tier 3 college student?
Yeah, I think this is a good question. So yeah, first thing I want to clarify is do not put yourself in these buckets like tier three or tier two colleges. I definitely understand that the visibility is lesser if you're not from like colleges like IITs or NITs, but there are great ways to build your profile and get yourself seen by any of the bigger companies as well. One way definitely is to build a good GitHub profile. Another way is to showcase your skills on LeetCode as well. So on LeetCode, you have all these rankings. So as and when you go on solving problems, your ranking improves, and people definitely look at that as well. And GitHub is again a very big place to just showcase what you have been doing. Just to showcase that you have been coding regularly is a great thing to do. And I think tier three colleges or things like that don't matter a lot if you can build a good profile. So maybe start with GitHub. And one thing I would suggest to do is try to look at some open source projects as well, and maybe start trying to understand how the code is written and trying to contribute to some of the issues. There are smaller issues available which are already marked as good to pick up for the first time and things like that. So maybe you can start working on them as well.
Okay, okay. Um, so the mentee is a business student and they have a very limited knowledge about coding, but they have a startup idea which requires them to make an app. So how should they proceed with it?
Yeah, so I think limited knowledge of coding, yeah, that's a good point to bring in. But I would say that if you're interested in coding the app yourself, you will have to learn some Android development, Android or iOS. And right now, there are great resources available. Even if you don't want to make separate apps for Android or iOS, there are cross-platform technologies like Flutter as well, which will be comparatively very easy to learn as well. And then you can just ship out the app for both Android and iOS users. So yeah, one way would be to take up some basic courses and learn some of these development. And another would be again to reach out to folks who can build the app for you. So yeah, I think these are the only two ways to go about it.
Right, right. Okay. So is it a good idea to make an app with Google Firebase?
Yeah, so Firebase is a very specific concept, again, which is around notifications and things like that. So yeah, Google Firebase is a great place to start from, and it's already open source, so you can just use it in your app as it is. So this is a good place to explore.
Okay. Um, so with the growing popularity of web development, what do you think is the future of Android developers?
Yeah, I would say that the future of Android developers is definitely great. So in my opinion, what happens with web is a different sort of scenario. Web development is popular, web development is growing, but I don't think Android or iOS development natively is going to move anywhere. You are always gonna have people using smartphones, and people will be using a lot of apps, and web cannot replace the native apps as such. If you talk about the performance, or if you talk about how an actual Android or iOS app feels, web cannot definitely replace that, and it's going nowhere in the long term, definitely.
Right, okay. So our next question is, does Kotlin language support Android and iOS both?
Yeah, so currently Kotlin is only written for Android, but the future of Kotlin is that it will be supported for iOS as well. So the future of Kotlin is to make it platform agnostic, so that you write code once and it works on both Android and iOS. Right now it's not. Right now it's only supported for Android, and for iOS you have to write the code in Swift.
Okay, okay. So Pavan is asking that is there any copyright related or any other kind of solution for preventing your code to getting stolen from GitHub?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so no one can. Okay, so there are two options on GitHub. One is the free profile that you create on GitHub. The free profile that you use to upload any code is visible to anyone. So if they come to your GitHub profile and see the code, they can copy it and they can use it in any way that they want. But there are paid profiles on GitHub also. So you pay for using GitHub as a repository. There's a monthly fees involved. I'm not sure what exactly is the fees, but it's not very high for an individual. On an organization level, it changes. So if you use a private account, you can no one can just see your code. You can add collaborators who you trust and who you want to see, who can see the code, and then it works that way.
Okay. So what would you recommend, Firebase or AWS?
I have personally used Firebase a lot, so I think it works great. I have not used AWS a lot for mobile development, but again, it's being used for a lot of the backend changes that we have. So as a mobile developer, you can focus on Firebase. That should be a good start.
Okay. Ashish is asking, can I merge AI or ML in app developing through an app and make ML models?
Yes, I would like to talk a bit about TensorFlow Lite here. So TensorFlow Lite is again an open source project created by Google, and this is already supported on Android. So they already have predefined ML models which you can use, and you can implement them using TensorFlow Lite on the Android app. TensorFlow Lite is just a basic version, just a light version of the TensorFlow library that is available. And how it makes sense is that it is a light version and it keeps your app smaller in size as well. So you can use TensorFlow Lite. There is an ongoing 11 weeks of Android which is available on the Android developers channel. If you see there, there is a section specifically dedicated for using TensorFlow Lite on mobile. So you can check that out, and you can definitely do this.
Okay. So Pallab is asking, as I test the app, and when it's about testing the app, basically, uh, and it involves a larger unit. So in that case, can you give him a better insight on this before releasing it for upcoming versions? And yeah,
Okay, I am not sure if I understand the question correctly. It's like I do test the app with larger, and can you give me better insight? Apart from the major checks, what should I do more to confirm the releases? Okay, so I will tell you what we do here. What we do here is we have a great we have an experimentation platform available. So if I code anything or I make any changes, I can control how many users can see it. So on that platform, I can basically say that okay, only 10% of the entire users should be seeing this piece of UI that is there. So that's how we control it. And apart from that, to make sure that your upcoming versions are better and the lower versions are not degraded, what you can do is you can have dashboards and good monitoring. So you have open source again tools available like Grafana, where you can build your dashboards, and you can see how many users are going through your app, or how your users are performing on each screen. So you can monitor that. And what we do here is, if with a 10% rollout we see a degradation in any of those numbers, we can roll them back, so the user will stop seeing that functionality and it will return back to original.
okay, okay. So is there any way to make an app interface by exporting from Adobe XD without having to code it?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So Pallab is asking again, can you suggest some tools for that?
For okay, just general tools for Android, right?
For testing.
Okay, got it. For testing your app, yeah, let me think. Yeah, dashboards are a great way to do that. And you should have, okay, yeah. So I think one major thing for testing is that you should have some sort of feature check. So if you're rolling out a feature, and if something goes wrong, you should be able to roll it back with a minor sort of fix. Because for Android, what happens is there is a build cut that goes to Google. And what happens is once your build cut goes, and if you want to make any code change, you will again have to do a build cut. So one build that has already been rolled out to the users is already ruined for them. So have some sort of check which can be just disabled, and your code should not be just available, so it can be rolled back. And apart from that, tools, I think again, having good analytics in place helps. So there is Google Analytics that you can use. So in analytics, you can basically see how each of your screens are performing, how many users are seeing your screens and things like that. And there is another tool called Crashlytics as well, which basically tells you if there are any, if users are facing any sort of crashes on your app. So Crashlytics is a great tool to use. It will give you good insights into what is happening for the users, and you can just see the exact pieces of code that are making the app crash, and then you can make the performance better. And yeah, apart from that, other tools are like Flipper and Stetho that I spoke about earlier. So you should definitely check that out.
Okay. Um, so we have a very interesting question next. My friend made an app and he talked with the corporate company about it, and they said that they'll pay him 20 lakhs for buying that app. So is it true that companies pay so much amount just for a simple app?
Yeah, again, I'm not sure what sort of app this is, but if you see the what companies have been paying for apps, you would definitely see numbers even bigger than this. Like when companies have acquired different apps and things like that, that's a different game altogether. But yeah, if they're saying they're paying 20 lakhs and if it's a genuine use case, I think you should better understand what this app does. And more than app and more than just UI, it's about a lot of data as well. So what sort of users are using these apps? What sort of data this app already collects? That might also be very interesting for another company to use.
Okay. Um, Another interesting question coming up for you, Nehal. What knowledge is required to make a social media app?
Yeah, I think for social media app, I wouldn't say anything specific. Again, you should if you want to make an Android or iOS app, you should be comfortable with these languages. If you want to make an Android app, you should be comfortable with Kotlin or Java. And if you're interested in making an iOS app, you should be comfortable with Swift language. So these languages should be good enough for a start. And apart from that, if you're just talking about features, social media apps will be chat heavy. Social media apps will be using a lot of pull to refresh and things like that. So those are some of the features that you will have to add to your apps. And apart from that, I would suggest if you're interested in making any app to go through material design. So material designs are guidelines put by Google. These are the standard UI guidelines that are available for anyone to use. So that makes your app look really good and standard across all apps.
Okay, okay. Um, so Pallab comes back again and he's saying that for the experimentation platform, they're using Instabug, which gives us quite insight about the issue. So do you have a suggestion or, I don't know, insight about this?
I have not really used Instabug, but I have heard about it. And yeah, if it works for you, it's great. Maybe compare it with other tools available like Crashlytics as well, and see what is happening. I have not personally used Instabug a lot, so I'm not exactly sure what sort of insights it gives.
Okay. Um, our next question is, can we add website inside of an app like a frame? If yes, then which tools and language is
Yeah.
required?
Yeah, totally. You can do that. A lot of apps are already having the web pages inside the apps. It's fairly simple. You have these components called the web views inside the apps. So basically, inside the web view, you can load any of these website pages. The trickier part basically comes if these websites are not public. So basically, if I want to just load and redirect the user inside the app to an Uber website, for which he needs to be logged in inside the website also, you need to do that handling. So basically the user token has to be passed, and then the user is basically logged in onto the website. So that is one experience that you have to streamline, because it is not a great experience that the user has already logged into the app and then when he goes to the website, you again ask them to log in. That's not a great experience. So that is something that you need to handle.
Right, right. So can you give an example of an app which has website inside of an app? It might change the way I look at the app completely.
Got it. Yeah, I think if you have used Uber, we have a lot of websites inside the app. If you look at some of the help screens and help sections, and
Mm-hmm.
if you look at the legal pages, we have those redirecting to the websites also. I'm not sure if any another popular app that I know, maybe some pages on Flipkart. So what happens is if you look at apps that way, the core flows that are there, like for Uber, the core flow is that the user should be able to book a ride. So the core flows are never inside another website or things like that, because it's redirecting the user, and website performance, the web view performance is not at par with the native performance. It takes there is a smaller lag involved. It shows like a loading state and then loads the page and things like that. So we'd never do it for the core flows. Most of the apps don't do it for any of the core flows. But another screens like the help section, or just seeing what orders you have placed and things like that, which can have some sort of lag and doesn't make much of a difference, those can be moved to websites.
Okay, okay. A very immature question that I have here is like the links that redirect you to website, you can directly put those links in, can't you? I mean, do you really need some tools and languages to do that?
Yeah, so the only difference is that if you look at a mobile app, the screens that you see are powered by a XML that we build. So if you just want to load a website inside that, you need to load it inside a WebView component that is available inside Android. So if you just redirect just put that link directly, what happens is the user moves out of the app. So you will exit the app and move to a website, and then you have to make the user come back to the app. So that's the only challenge there. So if the user has moved on to the website, now the user can just go anywhere, right? They have to like literally press the back button and come back to your app, and it's their choice to come back or not. So you have like lost one user basically. So
Right.
yeah, if you just put a link directly, it just redirects to that actual website, not a website inside the app.
Okay, okay, I got it. So Shubhankar is asking that he is a second year student and should he learn both app development and web development, or should he focus only on one?
Yeah, so I think I was also confused at one point. What I had done was during college, I had done web development. I did not enjoy it a lot, so I moved to app development, and then I really
Okay.
liked building apps, and then I never moved back to web. So I think it's more of a choice. You will not be able to focus on both at the same time, because the languages are pretty different. At Uber also I worked on web development a bit. That was a very short time, and only because there was a need. I don't spend full time on both of these technologies. It becomes
Okay.
difficult if you want to work as a mobile engineer. It would make more sense to learn Android and iOS both, because then you can be full-fledged mobile developer. But combining mobile and web is probably not a great idea.
Okay, okay. So Abhishek has an idea to make an app that saves the eyes of the person who is using phones and laptops too much. So, any advice for that?
Okay, yeah, I think there is already a lot of ongoing effort from a lot of companies around this. So this basically comes under uh, this section called digital well-being. Basically, if the people are using a lot of phone and lot of app, they're spending too much time. So basically, what they do is they tell the user that, okay, you have spent these many hours on the phone, or you have spent these many hours on the laptop. So you should try to avoid it. You should try to bring it down. And then they have like multiple challenges, like go 1 hour without using phone, go 1 hour without using any laptop and things like that. So yeah, I think Abhishek, if you're on the call, if you want to highlight any specific issues.
Okay, so if you want to do that, Abhishek, please use the chat box for that. Meanwhile, we'll move to the next question. Aparna is working on Flutter. So, can you suggest some companies where she can look for internships?
Yeah, I think Flutter is fairly new in the market. So I'm not aware which of the companies are really using Flutter at this point of time, because I know only 1.0 was out last year. So yeah, not specifically for Flutter. I'm not aware of that, but maybe just try some of the major companies like Zomato, Flipkart, and see if they're hiring Flutter developers. Because right now, if you talk about Flutter, it is not so advanced that people look specifically for Flutter developers. They would look for mobile developers, and as mobile developers, you might have to build a few screens on Flutter when you are inside that company.
Okay. So, Suraj is asking if it is practical to use C or C++ for Android development.
No, not at all. You should not use C or C++. It will be very difficult for you to do anything on Android with C or C++. The best resource would be to use Kotlin, and another option would be to use Java.
Okay. And Aaron is asking, what is the better way to know more about web development?
A better way would be to do some courses on Udacity or Udemy, see if it interests you, and then probably go ahead with that.
Okay. And what about the backend work on social media apps like servers and data storing? I think it's related to the previous social media app question.
Got it. Yeah. So backend, so any app that you use is always backend heavy. Just that you don't see a lot of those things that are going on there. So what happens with a social media app is like you will be having a lot of APIs, which will basically return the feed for each user. How it usually works is the client, like your phone device, will be sending some sort of specific unique identifier for that particular user once you have logged in, and the front end, basically the mobile, makes a call to the backend, and backend then fetches all the data that is to be shown to that mobile device. So data storing, again, there it's again a huge field. We use Kafka and all of these sort of data storage mechanisms. So yeah, I've not really worked a lot of work on backend, so I probably am not the right person to answer this.
Okay. So Pallav is asking, can you suggest something for case scenarios where the app user who are in lower OS level face issues with the app? Anything instead of tech debt?
Something okay. Yeah, I think what I've built at Uber was there's an app called Uber Lite, which is specifically for emerging markets. And again, we have built these for these users who are on the lower OS levels also. And we had a lot of issues that we solved for these OS levels. So one major thing was the payload size that comes from the network. So what happens is the devices with lower Android OS do not have a great way of receiving data. So if you send a huge payload from backend, there was a lag involved, and then the user was not able to see anything on the screens. So that is something that we solved. Another issues on the lower OS levels are again a lot of UI changes. A lot of UI that was built has been rolled out to the higher OS levels, but they are just not uh, available for the lower OS levels.
Okay. Um, so this mentee wants to learn UI UX design, and because they like to use their mind creatively, but they rarely see UI UX design offers in campus placements. So can that person go for UI UX or learn for some common things like Java, Python for the sake of placement?
Okay, this is really interesting, and I would probably again not be a very good person to answer this, but I have seen folks at Uber who have done engineering as their education, and then they are into UI UX design development. So again, it's a I would say it's a major shift, because if you are in engineering college and if you are going for campus placements, they will not be hiring for UI or UX designers, because these design jobs are mostly picked up from colleges like NIDs or these sort of design schools. So as an engineer, if you want to get into UI UX, again, it will be a path that you will have to explore. There will be great resources available, but you will have to spend the time to learn and understand how it works. And definitely you can get into it. I have seen people change trajectories and get into something apart from technical also. So yeah, I think it's a yes that you can go for it, UI UX, but it will again be a learning curve involved. And if you're just talking for placement's sake, for placements, I would say if you want to get into the tech field, it would be better to learn things like Java, or have a good grasp on algorithms and data structures. But if you're very focused on getting into UI UX, you will have to start learning on your own.
Okay, okay. So our next question is, Suraj is asking if it is necessary that we have to learn both Android and iOS, Java and Swift, or are cross-platform languages like Flutter and React Native good enough?
Okay, yeah. So my personal opinion would be to pick one of Android or iOS. And again, Flutter or React Native is something that is used by very specific apps. A lot of these apps that you see are which are user focused will not be using things like Flutter or React Native, because the experience changes a bit on Flutter or React Native. The experience that you have on native platforms like Android or iOS is much better. So any company will be just using Android or iOS itself.
Okay. So continued from the above UI UX question. Pavan likes UI UX, but they don't want to. He doesn't want to concentrate on it just because of the demand of jobs in the market. What do you have to say about it?
Yeah, I would say if you're really passionate about it, there are tools to learn UI UX development, and you can definitely explore that. But as far as jobs are concerned, you will have to explore that. You will have to maintain your profiles on Dribble and sites like these, and then probably search for an opportunity there. It might take a while because you're switching gears there, but yeah, it should be doable. And if you are very focused on placements, I would say that UI UX will not be a great start for you because there's definitely a lot of learning curve involved there.
Okay. So Yajit is asking, taking exam in Oracle Java is good for college students?
Um, I would say, yeah, you can do it, but taking an exam does not just mean that you. So I know for a fact that for Oracle Java, there are a lot of dumps available. People just learn those sort of questions and answers and just go give it. That will not help you at all. If you really want to give it, probably try to spend some time, understand the the details about Java language, and then give it. That would be helpful for you.
Okay. So the next question by Arpit is, for app development, should we go for Java or Flutter?
You should go for Java or Kotlin.
Okay.
Flutter would not be a great start because Flutter is again cross development. If you know Kotlin or Java, Flutter would be very easy for you to pick up.
Okay. So let's pick up some questions from the chat box. So K. Maheshwari is asking, how many days does it take to learn Android development?
I would say spend at least a month and go through some of the courses that are available. Try to build a very basic app. So one of the basic apps that I have built is the news app. Another basic app that I've built is the movies app. Basically, you get a bunch of details from the APIs and then you just try to show it to the users. So a lot of ideas are available online already for making simple apps, like the Notes app and things like that. So try making one of these apps. It should take you around a month, I would say.
Okay, okay. I know you've already answered this question, Nehal, but Aryan is asking some basic courses which are required for app development.
Yeah, again, yeah, I think you can just check out some courses on Udemy or Udacity. Udemy has very good curated courses which are basic for app development. You can just take one full-fledged course. There would be around I think 18 to 20 lectures, but they would help you make a simple app completely from scratch.
Okay, okay. So that's it with the questions, Nehal. It was mind-blowing session, like very insightful and informational. Um, but before I let you go for the night, I would like you to drop your LinkedIn ID or your email ID so that our students, our mentees can get in touch with you.
Sure, I will put my Gmail ID here.
Yeah, in the chat box.
Yes. Um,
And guys, I've put the link of feedback form in the chat box. Do give us our feedback and let us know what we should do in the future. Great. Thank you so much, Nehal, for this amazing session. We had a lovely time and I hope you did too. And thank you so much to all the mentees for coming up here tonight and for being with us till the end of the session. It was an amazing session. And thanks a lot, Nehal.
Thank you, Yashi. Yeah, it was great talking to everyone, and the questions were really good. So, yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Yeah, reach
Great.
out
And
if you have any questions or concerns. Yeah,
right. And a big thanks to the Qfuss team again for arranging such amazing mentors. And please do make sure that you visit their website if you want to know more about them. Also, before leaving, do fill the feedback form. Thank you so much for being a lovely audience. Thank you so much again, Nehir. And we hope to see you again.
yeah. Thank you, Yashi. Yeah, see you guys. Bye.
Yeah. So, good evening, good night to all of you. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Also, guys, do fill the feedback form.
I've added the email ID. I guess Abhishek is asking. It is
Yeah.
nehalsp7@gmail.com, and I've added my LinkedIn ID as well. So do feel free to connect and reach out.
Okay, guys. Wait, I'll share it again. Don't you guys worry. You should be able to see it now. Pavan, Abhishek.
Okay, I think I had sent it to only panelists. Okay.
Yeah, looks like that. Okay, and do fill the feedback form, guys. And I hope you've received the LinkedIn and the email address. And see you again in the next webinar.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.